It's rolling, by the way.
All right. Can you scoot back just a little bit? Just like back. There you go. All right, cool. All right, man, you ready to get into it? I'm ready to expose who you are. Just let's get into it. Kahlil. I met you off of Threads originally. Threads. I had saw a thread that basically went viral because it ended up on my timeline. And I had saw what you have here, which is beautiful, Kahlab Social. But I didn't know who you were as a person. I automatically knew what your brand was, but who are you? Tell us about where you're from.
Okay, cool, man. So I'm 27 years old. I'm originally from Oakland, California, but I was born in Los Angeles. So super small town. This is probably one of the biggest buildings there. And believe it or not, I went to school for mechanical engineering.
Okay.
And so I actually didn't even go to school for anything creative.
Right.
Like that. But while I was in school, man, I started, doing Photoshop, really getting into my creative bag, editing flyers and doing stuff, having my own merch in college.
Wow.
And then once I got to Houston, it was for engineering.
Okay.
Kind of started the journey into just buying a camera, like getting into like the photography and like really the creative scene.
When did you get to Houston? What year was this? Walk us through that.
Middle of the pandemic, right? So
wow, you came here in the panty.
It's pandemic. I never forget. I got here and they were like, yeah, you're working remote. So I basically moved from Oklahoma for Houston. They're like, yeah, you're going to be working remote. So I
okay.
The first 6 months of my engineering job at the time, remote.
Okay. All right. Now, born in California, raised in Oklahoma, came to Houston for a job, and then now we're here at your own space here in Houston, the Houston metro area. When was Kahlab Social born?
So Kahlab Social, believe it or not, the idea was born about 2.5 years before I even tried to even do anything towards the space.
Okay.
So as I said before, I was in the middle of nowhere. I was working as an engineer, bought a camera, started shooting. What I started to do was I started to go to different studios and do like studio photo shoots, right? And I was like, bro, I can do this myself. So I went and bought all the camera equipment. I bought the lighting equipment, everything I needed to do at studio. And I was doing the studio in my like 1-bedroom apartment for like a year. Then I moved up to a 2-bedroom apartment. So the idea for Kahlab Social was born 2 years before I even tried anything. I just didn't believe enough to like actually do it. Oh, this is a dope idea.
Right. Because it definitely is a dope idea. And I can't wait to get into the business model and everything that you have going on here. But as I warm up the story, I think what I like to know is what made you leave your job to build this full time? And where were you working last before you built this full time?
So yeah, okay. So going into it, right before I went full time, I worked at Meta as a program. I had 2 corporate jobs at the time.
You know how us tech folks get down. We have 2 of them.
Program management job at Meta. And then I worked at Glue for their crossover department, which was like a project management.
Yeah.
Influencer marketing. So I was doing a project for marketing company specifically for influencer marketing. So I was doing those 2. And I just ended up going to New York, seeing the tall buildings, the lights and everything like that. And I looked at the billboards. I was like, bro, I know how to do every single thing, like from the photography to the videography to the graphic design. And I was like, why can't I, have myself on a billboard? And I was like, it's either one or 2 things. Either I'm not applying myself enough, or like I'm just scared to just do it. So
right.
I went back to Houston, and then I don't know, everything just started.
You had that fire in that behind.
Yeah,
It's something about, especially me. I grew up about 2 hours from New York, so it is something special about going to like Times Square or even Brooklyn and just seeing, especially Black and brown faces on these billboards and stuff, and thinking like, okay, how can I get my brand up there or myself up there? So I love that you went up north, got that fire, came back down here and just went all in. But this space is huge, man. I mean, this space right here that we're in your building already is 2,400 square feet. How big is the entire building?
It's 4,000.
4,000 square feet. So I know the first thing people are going to think is, well, how did he get the money for this? Like, what did it look like getting capital for Kahlab Social?
So, like I said, I went back to New York and I was like, man, I got to do something.
Right.
And one of my good friends, Austin Foster, he invited me to an event. I just dressed nice.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, come to this event with me. So I went. And when I went to the event, everybody kept asking me, how much do you want? And I was just like, I don't know. And basically it was like a lender matchmaking event. So it was like it was like for like business loans.
Yes.
Like that. And so by the end of it, I had a number in mind.
Yep.
I underestimated how much I needed, but I ended up talking to somebody and she was like, hey, we have this business program. I think it'd be perfect for you.
Right.
I applied for it. I almost didn't get in because I had just went full time into like, all right, I'm gonna do this full time.
Right.
This is actually, I started off when I did this full time. I was gonna get my merch. So that's how I started merch. But I applied for the business program, and she was just like, we kind of need a little bit of collateral, so we need to know that you're making money, type of thing.
Yes.
But she was like, I like what you got going on. We'll see. And so I ended up. So it was like a random day, it was like a Wednesday, and she emailed me and was like, hey, we're having this event. The head director of the program is going to be there. The event it was like 4 p.m. when she emailed me. 5 p.m. when the event started. Luckily, I lived downtown.
Right.
So I was like, okay, cool, I'll be there. So I pulled up with my iPad in hand, talked to the head director. It's like, hey, I got this idea, this is what I'm doing. Showed her kind of like images of what I was thinking. Had the business plan on point, and like after the event, like an hour later, that was like been accepted. So
look at that.
I was able to get the startup capital. I got $25,000, which I realized I needed a lot more. But yeah, that's how I started.
But capital is capital, and now the $25,000 was not a grant; that was the loan to start. Okay, and have you also received any grants since then?
I received like a $5,000 grant.
That's good.
I started off with like 30, basically like
30 bills.
Then I had, some of my own personal capital.
I think it's amazing that you went to a lender matchmaking event. To be honest, I haven't even heard of that, but that's so interesting because there are so many different ways to get capital. Like, as you know, Jem has received capital in different ways, but I think it's important, especially if you're a creative listening to this, that explore different capital, grants, loans, investors. Like, there's so many ways to get money or capital, so you can start something like even what he did. What I have is an app, but we do have to start exploring other capital other than what we just have in our bank accounts because of the fact that there's money out there. So I love that you started with $30,000 because when I show people some B-roll of the space, they're going to be like, damn. So now, are you in scaling mode right now? What is the pathway to profitability for you?
So I would say the pathways in two different ways, right? So Kahlab Social exists in person, but then also we're growing our online community, our online. So that's a part of being able to provide these, the physical resources, physical community, branching out, being able to host experiences in places. And then, of course, having the resources online anywhere in the world. I think that's why it's a perfect that, we work together. I'm trying to get people across the world, too.
And we are already there. So that's, I think, Jem Social and Kahlab Social, even just from the name already was like so amazing to collaborate. But definitely look out for benefits that will roll in for Jem and Kahlab Social. Any member that becomes a member of Kahlab Social, we will give them a free membership on Jem Social. And in that membership, you have access to applying to gig opportunities. You obviously can hire other people as well. You also have access to health insurance options that are really, really low. You also have the ability to access grant opportunities. There's millions of dollars that goes into creators' pockets, and we don't even know because there's not really a great platform for it. But Jem does send out those grant opportunities to members. And so much more, so many more features. So anybody who's a part of Kahlab Social automatically is our family too on Jem Social. So we have that, and we have plenty of other benefits that will roll out throughout the year as we are exploring our partnership. But getting back to Kahlab Social, tell the listeners exactly what Kahlab Social is and what's the benefits of being a part of it.
Very dope. So Kahlab Social, physical space is a creative workplace. You come here in Houston, Texas, you have the ability to co-work 24/7. So we have a co-working space. We call it the lab. So you go in there, Wi-Fi, you got curated coffee, all the things. Podcast studios, we have an event space. You have natural light photography. All the backdrop colors and things you need to really hone your creative skills or grow your creative business or grow your business in general. Then we have 2 rooms available that you can as your private office. So that's how Kahlab Social started, as the physical resource, right? But the real thing that sets us apart is we're really a real community. To where we host like workshops, we host panel discussions, we host networking events, we host events, and that's the in real life aspect. And then we move all of that into like our online community where you can get the same, workshops, our workshops, we do live streaming. Every single bit of physical resource are as far as like, gaining your skill, growing your skill, knowledge base, and even just the networking piece. Online as well. So it's like bridging
the gap
versus like all.
I think that's really important because even what we're doing, it's so important to partner with spaces that's bringing that in real life connection. Here, I would say that you're the first space that I heard about this in Houston. And then where I grew up, we have a space similar to this. But I think it's so important that there are more even models like this, because when I just go rent an hour or 2 at a studio, it's just me. It's just me and maybe my photographer and whomever else is a part of the shoot. But to have a membership here and also have access to the community, it's a whole different game. It's a whole different game. And we are in the loneliness epidemic, which I would call it still, because people just don't know how to be around other people anymore. I see it in people's body language and people's manners. And I think that we're forgetting that being creatives, we have to be professional. We have to have a sense of mannerism. So sometimes when I'm around some of the most talented creators, they might be the most, I won't say mean people, but they're not exactly approachable because they are not used to being around other people anymore. They're just used to creating and doing their job, which is fine. But because they miss that friendship side, they miss that networking piece, they miss that space where we used to be a community of people before we had to stay in the house because of the pandemic. I think that these kind of spaces bring back that, because I feel like independent doesn't mean alone. That's one of my favorite quotes that I heard from Rec Philly, which is a creative space in Philly. That was one of my favorite things because it's bringing in that community piece and getting to bounce ideas off of each other, get to know each other, see how we can build. And that's so important because you don't always need capital to build. You can collaborate, but that all starts with community and also being respectful towards one another, exploring ideas to see how y'all both can grow as businesses and as brands. So can you tell me about some of the success stories that you've had with your members, whether they've been collaborating with each other?
Yeah, for sure. So the list kind of can go on. Like one of our members, that was Michael Prince, super talented. He's never traveled across the world, but one of the members that they both met. Now she's a part of his like nonprofit. She's traveled across the country with him.
Wow.
And so like that's the opportunity that like you get because you're meeting people you didn't know you were going to meet. There's people that they're graphic designers and they're working on projects of people that are here.
Right.
It's all like a cross collaboration, like skill share. Even one of the members, they go come up with like the logos.
Right.
Like simply just by being here and I'm bouncing ideas off.
Right.
That's kind of how it kind of works here, right? It's like people, they've done whole podcast seasons.
Yes.
It's just really dope. A lot of the opportunities that people are able to get in here and also the things that they're able to create. Like right after this, somebody's doing a whole brand shoot for their clothing brand. Right? Like, you never really know what's going on.
I love that. I love that. And I've already, just from the last few weeks, I've already seen multiple things here, events, people shooting, you doing your thing, working, helping other people's podcasts out. But I would say that I've seen you doing a lot of stuff around here. Are you what's considered a solopreneur?
See, I would say that I started Kahlab Social.
Yeah.
So it was solopreneur. There was a point about like the 6-month mark, just being in the space, and I realized like the vision, the things I want to do is too big to do alone.
Yeah.
So now like I have an intern, and And, we're bringing more and more people to the team.
Good.
And I think one of the things I even learned from like Russell is like, as you grow, it's almost like you're recruiting your team, but you're like, it's natural.
Naturally.
Instead of me having to like say, hey, I'm hiring for this. A lot of times people are like, hey, I want to help with this.
Yep.
Now they tell them as being a part of the team. I think teamwork is like the ultimate like thing you need as an entrepreneur, as a creative. If you understand how to like build a team, if you understand how to work in a team, those are like two things that can kind of make you in touch.
I think that when you just see something incredible, especially when it's like new and just like built from the ground up, naturally the right person's going to want to invest in it. Like I even felt like that when I saw this space, because it's one thing seeing it online, you know what I'm saying? But when you come here and you also see the other people here in the space, even at the networking events, it's very warming here. And I actually like the fact that it's not directly in the city, like in Midtown or downtown. Like it was nice to get up this morning, go to the gym, and then drive over here where it's very peaceful. It's not like parking issues. Like I think that that's what makes this stand out. But technically we're in what's called Stafford, Texas, which maybe 20, 30 minutes outside of like the,
Like 2 minutes, you're in Houston.
Right. Yeah. Like I noticed that, like it's depending where you're at in Houston, like it could be a couple minutes, it could be 20 minutes. I live in the suburbs and it still only took me 30 minutes, but I've recognized that this was a great area, and it's also great parking. Like I just can't emphasize, y'all, please, when y'all open places, think about the people who got to park. But I truly really just love the space. But my question now is this the only site that you're going to do, or do you think you're going to build more of these throughout, whether it's in Houston or any other different cities, including your hometown?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think I consider this my MVP.
Yep, like a pilot.
This is a pilot to see what works, what doesn't work. And then it kind of allows us to, go to the drawing board space of the things we want to do in the future and like go from there. But most definitely this was like the first of me.
Because I really like it. And where I grew up primarily was Newcastle, Delaware, which is about 30, 40 minutes from Philadelphia. And I could see this even being blown up in spaces that don't have anything like this, but have tons of creatives, because I actually know a lot of creatives in Delaware. I'm sure you know a lot of creatives in Oklahoma. Do you think that you would end up tapping into those maybe smaller cities that are near major cities? Like Stafford is a small city that's near a major city.
And, and that business model, or even that concept, is kind of how Walmart got started.
Yep.
That's how Walmart got started. Even there's a gym super popular here. It's down the street. I can't know the name of it, but they're in Stafford, Texas.
Yep.
And they have like this big gym. So that's definitely like an idea, like a potential thing. That's how Walmart got started.
Right.
You start in the communities. It's how, entrepreneurship, you see a problem.
Yep.
You see a gap and then you fill it.
Yeah.
Continue
Bridget.
From there. So
that's good. That's good. Because I really do like what you guys are doing here. And I would love for you to go more into what's the difference between the business model here versus renting per hour at a studio.
Okay, dope. So you may tell from the perspective of like a business owner or the perspective of like the customer. So
start by what the business model is and then segue into just give an example of like maybe a photographer. Okay, dope. So when you're traditionally booking a studio, time booking, yep,
and you pay that same price every single time.
Yeah.
Studio work. So the $75 an hour is $75 an hour. Every time you have to book, you have to pay $75 an hour. Time is up, you got to get out. Right. So here, you are paying a subscription fee. It's like a monthly recurring revenue. But you're paying this monthly fee, paying like $149 a month. You get 10 hours of studio time. So that's $10 per hour per studio time.
Clock that T.
Like you're saying, hey, I'm going to invest in myself for this.
Yes.
Knowing that I'm going to have 10 hours to get it back on the back end. Not only that, you're able to use this space as like, just like a soundboard, a workspace. And, a studio, all you get is a studio, the lights, whatever.
That's it.
But here you get a studio, 10 hours. Here you get co-working. Also get community of people. So it's almost like the perfect thing. Like you think about it, it's almost like you're enrolling into like a university low key.
I feel the same way because just in case if y'all didn't understand it, because maybe there might be some creatives who have never booked a studio and haven't thought of a model like this, just to walk us through a customer perspective, because I am one of Kahlab Social's customers. We signed up yesterday for the year. Think about it like this. So I'm an influencer. And I need a space to shoot my projects at. When I get bookings and stuff, I want a dedicated space for my photo shoots, to shoot maybe my long form content, like a YouTube video, because I do have a YouTube account now. And then I have my podcast. When you think about those three things I just said, for a photo shoot, podcasting, and YouTube, you can do all of that right here for exactly what he just said. So if you're on a $150 a month membership, 10 credits a month, as you would say, equals 10 hours. You really aren't beating that deal, because just like he said, when you break it down, it's like you're paying $10 an hour, but you do have to be on a subscription. I would much rather that and just be scaling my influencer business or podcast business or YouTube business. Like, it all starts with the fact that if you're signing up here, you believe in yourself. That's number one.
Fair.
Because you should know and think of ways on how to 10x, 100x that money. $150 a month. But if just from one collaboration, you're making anywhere between $300 to $1,000, right? Depending if you're a micro or macro influencer, you're already covered that after just one deal. And then you have the rest of the hours a month to really just come up with more content to scale you to the next collaboration, paid promotion, whatever it may be. So when I came here and also spoke here before, I saw how you can literally scale. So think about it from that perspective, as in, even if you're a rapper and you just need to be shooting more content, like, come in here and shoot content. That's still not that bad. And I can imagine, because I can imagine people might ask this, do you think you're going to add some kind of recording studio one day?
We actually had a recording studio for about 6 or 7 months. So one of the members, they actually rented the backspace for 6 months, and that was their thing.
Like, they brought their stuff in.
They brought all their stuff.
That's actually a good idea.
And that's how they made their money back. So their clients come in, but then also when our members wanted to use a recording studio or something like that, engineer,
that's smart.
So that's one of the things that we think about. If you're a photographer, right? Like, if I need to do 10 shoots this month in order to make this money back. But really, you can make it back at one shoot. Because if someone books you for a studio shoot, you pay $75 per. So if your price is $300, now you minus that $75.
Right.
So now you take that amount from your pocket. So $200, right?
Right.
Now, and you book the space here. If you do that same shoot for $300,
right,
you're profiting $290, because technically your studio space for that hour was only $10. So now you like a $90 extra to your profit. And then if you do the math, you do 10 shoots a month at $300.
Right.
The membership paid for itself with the first 2 shoots.
Agreed. I'm right with you, because even as a consumer, I would prefer a photographer who has a studio space.
And now is your home studio, where everything is.
Yep.
You're set up as soon as exactly what the setup is. It's smooth. You're like super calm.
Yep.
Super cool. You can do your best work because this is
your home space. I agree. As in, when you're going into other studios, you don't know where they put their props at. You don't know if their lighting's bad. Oh yeah, y'all. I have tons of stories, especially when I was in Miami, where I was working with these photographers. They would go to a preferred studio because maybe they already had worked there before. Maybe they now worked out a deal, but it was still the same thing, like same beat of a different drum. Like, I'm coming here, they're like, maybe their lights was flickering, or something was always going on. Maybe they didn't have the backdrop that we had already asked for before. But I do think it's so important. If you are a photographer, especially, or even a videographer, think about where you want to have your home studio. If you don't have your own studio, even at your home, because I know that was a big thing up north. A lot of people turn their basements into their studios. That's why I loved shooting up north. I didn't mind going to people's homes, but that was me. I think also as another female, like, who is way more introverted, they're not comfortable with going to a photographer's home. And I understand that too. I was working with people I grew up with, so it was different. But as a photographer, especially in 2025, please think about getting your own space or joining a membership like Kahlab Social, because now you have a home space that you can just make sure you're connected with his app or the platform to book out the time ahead, and you could scale. Like I really believe that easily a photographer here should be making no less than 3-4 bands a month, no less than $4,000 a month, because you already have that benefit amongst other photographers that you have your own home studio, and you could collaborate with other videographers who are shooting here, whatever it may be, to make some extra coins. And you can be on Gem Social, because we definitely be having gigs available for photographers. And I will say something that I noticed is that the clients will always prefer the photographers and videographers, or really any creatives that have their own home studio or some kind of preferred studio that they work with. So that's great. I really didn't even think about that until you said it. But even from a consumer point, we always want to go with the best bundle. Like the professionalism, the portfolio, the location, like all of those things, it's really important. Are you really happy that you started this in Houston first?
Of course I'm happy. I feel like, how can I say it? I'm just grateful I started.
Yes.
That's the first thing. Is like, sometimes, people get caught up in their heads and like, oh, it needs to be perfect. I'm just grateful that I just started.
Yeah.
And I think that opened the door to everything else.
That is a word, because y'all, we are in 2025. Too much is going on in the workforce, and there's a lot going on, even with natural disasters. Like, there has never been a better time to just start now, because you never know tomorrow's promise. And I would hate to go out sad. That's one thing I've always said to my friends, my family. Like when they ask me about Gem, I'm like, I don't give a damn how hard it gets. The fact that I started and I'm sticking with it and I'm still just allowing it to grow beautifully, it's an amazing thing to wake up to, even on the hard days. Like, and that's another reason why I think community is important, because even those days where you want to come, like, just give up, you come here, or yeah.
And even if they're having a bad day too, now you got someone to let you know.
Yep.
Okay, we're in
the same boat.
It's hard.
Yep.
Let's get through it. You know what I'm saying?
And let's get through it together. Shit, let's create. Like, I mean, damn. Because it does get hard. But y'all got to remember, it gets hard at work too. And who do y'all talk to? Y'all coworkers sometimes, that friend. And you don't even know if you can even trust that friend for real at work. But it's the same thing. Like, it's going to get hard at work. It's going to get hard in business. Like, just pick your hard. So, Kahlil, I really just want to thank you for taking the time, because I know that, first of all, you run this whole thing. So I know you're busy. As you know, however we can support you at Gem Social, we're going to support with family now. And we're excited to eventually have our event here to invite our users and members here, alongside with meeting your users and members. But I will have your link drop below. And again, just thank you for being on here. And we can't wait to talk more about Kahlab Social as time comes on.
It was a pleasure. This is great.
It's your girl Bree from Gem Social. It's
Kahlil from Kahlab.
And we'll catch y'all next time. Thank you so much. Peace. That was good. I learned so much. I didn't even know that stuff.
Man.
Which is why I love podcasts.